Great. Let's begin with introducing myself. I'm Rochelle. I'm the Marketing Manager of Novantic Singapore, and I'll be doing the opening remarks for today's session. And the simple housekeeping notes I would like to share. And you are encouraged to join in with a listen mode only during the presentation. However, you can unmute yourself to raise your question during the Q&A. But if you have question you would like to address it to our speaker here, you can always drop it in the chat region. Tell us how we did by scanning a QR code that we will be sharing later and provide your feedback. And kindly note that this session will be recorded in order for us to offer to the attendees after the session. So very high level of agendas of today. As you may see, we'll start with the welcome remarks and then followed by the topic of today by our specialist here, compliance security specialist, Dui, and he will speak about the information protection and privacies and the best practices from Microsoft 365 solutions, as well as our offerings exclusively to the customers that are attending our webinar. And we will end up with a Q&A sessions where we allow everyone to raise your questions to our speaker. And that's it. Our 60 minutes of webinar session will be ending. So I'll be introducing, I will not go into details because you have seen and watched the video before that. We are not new in the market basically, but we are new in Singapore markets. We have present in over 60 countries globally, and we are headquarters in London. With over 6,000 of our employees, that's where we dedicated to deliver our solution and services to our customers. So how we can help you to achieve more? So basically, we cover not just on solutions licensing, but we provide digitization, cybersecurity, where we'll be speaking today, clouds computing, as a services, it could be service as a services, it could be platform as a service, a hybrid cloud, hybrid computing, or hybrid workplace, Internet of Things, software, the future workplace infrastructures, AI, and machine learning. So we have thousands of vendors, as you can see here, and we are service over 80 thousands of customers globally. But today will be our first presentation to our customers in Singapore, where we'll be sharing on the topics of cybersecurity. So besides that, we are also a leading Microsoft partners with awards and recognition from Microsoft globally and locally, and how we measure ourselves in terms of capabilities and to show that our expertise in across different solutions. So we are Azure Experts Partners MSP since 2019. And we have more than 25 years of experience in the markets, where we hold a 13 advanced specialization from Microsoft that covering Azure, security, modern work, and business app. So let me explain slightly how both Novantic and Net1 Asia works. So basically, we have a very special partnership across 3 countries, which is Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia with Net1 Asia, where we form a partnership and solutions to offer comprehensive in digital transformations, ICT strategies, and cybersecurity. So Net1 Asia actually specializes in innovative information platform solutions. And they provide a very solid consultation services and expertise with years of experience in these 3 countries. So we collaborate with businesses across industry, promoting the information technologies, how the customers can utilize it and address it to the organization needs. So together we bring a very powerful combination of expertise and resources to drive customers' digital transformation and business success in the evolving of digital landscape. So I think without further ado, that's all from my end, the sharing, and I will invite the next presenter, the compliance security specialist, Dui, to speak about our topic of the day. Over to you, Dui.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Let me take your control. Okay, hello everyone. So Thanks for joining this session today. So today we will talk about how we can protect our data in the organization because data nowadays is really important. It does not include only for your, for example, for your like recruitment process or something else. It's more about your strategy, your employee information, and even your customer information. If you are a B2B company. So that's why we have to secure the data. We have to keep the data in control in our organization so that we can know the way that we can protect them really well. So in here, so just go to the introduction quickly. So in here, so we are the Microsoft Partner of the Year 2023 for Microsoft Singapore and the whole APAC. So this is really an honor to us for to focus on Microsoft security and the Microsoft solution in general. And we try to convince the customer that we have the capabilities to have you guys in controlling and protecting Microsoft security. And we also have a really huge case study that Microsoft improved and also for the success story from our customer that we guide them and deliver this Microsoft security for our customer. So let's go deeply into the data protection. So what's the challenges and what is the solution that we can offer to you guys? In here, so you can see this is the information proliferation continue to accelerate. So back to the past. So as you can see, so we just had some like piece of information like records, documents, emails, and that's it. But nowadays, because of the explore of the data, right? So by 2025, so the amount of data will become 175 zettabytes, which means that we're going to the role of digital information. And that's why if we don't have any action right now, so if we wait to 1 or 2 years later, the information will be really huge and we don't have so much technologies to have with us for that moment. So as you can see here, so we have, for example, we have the SaaS apps, cloud apps, because we are working in the cloud environment. We not only just do with the on-premise. So that's why we will store the data on the cloud services. So that's why we have to keep control of this cloud service as well. And also we only not only work in the environment, the corporate environment, we also have to collaborate with other partners, other customer, and other vendors. So which means that we have to share the documents to the outsider so that we can keep not only for our internal but for external as well. And also if you are the multi countries, so we have to deal with so many data regulations. So if you are a compliance managers or compliance specialist, I think you guys already knew about this one, General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR from the Europe. So even if you have to work in the information or any data belongs to the European countries, so you have to comply with their regulation. I think there's a case that some months ago. So Facebook, like they been fined with 1.4 billion dollars because they transfer illegally the data from the European to the US. So that's why the fines that we have to pay if we don't comply with the regulation is really huge. And each country has their own data regulation and we have to respect to their compliance. So that's why I go to this one, information protection strategy. So we cannot just say that we will protect all the data and that's it. We must have a way to know that this one is the right data that we can control. So in here, so is a rigid code application and data. So we will assume that this is the most important data in your organization. So of course, because it's really important, so we have to put the strongest control for this data. So we have the encryption, right? We have the access permission. We will narrow down the access from any user that they don't have the authorization. And also for the This one, so if your system has the way to enable the automatic classification, so it's really good because you don't only allow the users to manually protect the data. So your system will be the stakeholder to protect your data as well. And also, so going to the next one, so the enterprise collaboration environment. So this is where we talking about your whole company. So which means that you will protect for employees for your organization. So we do have data loss prevention, right? So any data, any critical data, when they come to the outsider, right? So we will have this one, this slide, the defense for our data, and it will see the condition. So if this data is really much not really important, so we can allow them to go to the outside. But if it's from the confidential data, so we will keep that into our organization, so we don't allow it to be sending out to the outside. And finally, like I mentioned before, so I think this is the most difficult way to secure data, because this when you try to share the document to the partners or to the suppliers. So I could call it the third parties. So that's why we also have a secure collaboration with partners and customer. Why? Because you don't just throw your documents to the partners, because maybe the partners they can send your document to someone else, right? So we also establish a secure collaboration, which means that we only allow this partner to be accessed, to be view for your document. So we don't allow for anyone to do that one. So this is the information protection strategy, where you have to define your critical data here, and also the data loss prevention to protect and to prevent any loss from your data. And finally, you have to consider as well the outside enterprise, when you have so many partners, so many vendors, suppliers that you have to work in. And also here, so this is like the 4 stages that you have to go through when you talk about how you can secure, how you can protect your data, and how you can prevent the data loss. So in Noventix, so many customers they come to us and they ask us that, okay, so do we want to do the data loss prevention here, DOB? But the thing is that we don't recommend you to go straight to this one, because if you don't have any strategy, you don't have any label schema, so how can you prevent the data loss, right? The you have just have only one scenario that you will secure and you will prevent all of your data. And so, for example, that there's some data that you have to send to the outsiders. For example, for the marketing team, right? So they have to send the blogs, they have to send any articles to publish to the outsiders. And also for the HR team, they have to send the job description, recruitment, and so on. So that's why we have to go to the first stage, which is know your data. And what does it mean, know your data? So know your data is about how you can understand your data landscape in your organization. For example, so you can establish the label or for the severity table, which means we have the public severity to the confidential severity. So you have to put your documents into each kind of the category. So for example, for this kind of information, so this is a public information. But for something like strategy, for the employee ID, customer information, so we put it as a confidential data. And you also have to understand your location that your data is stored. For example, if it's stored only for the cloud services, or even you have the file server on your on premises or SharePoint server, right? So you have to understand all of your data landscape. And then you can go to the next stage, protect your data. So why it's also important? Because, for example, if you work only for the DOB here, and then maybe there's some vulnerability that the employee they can know the way to send the document to the outsider, right? So you cannot like guarantee 100% that you can recover all of the DOB here. There are some cases or some actions that you don't cover yet, and the employee knew that one. And then because you have data protection in here, you can apply the encryption, you can apply the access restriction. So that's why even your DOB here, they don't cover that action, but the outsider, the external users, they can still not open that document because you already protect the data, right? So it's really good that we have to go to these two stages. And the third one is DOB. So then when we have the way to know the data, so we can understand that, okay, so this is a public document, so we just ignore it. So we don't need to protect the public document. So we just focus on the confidential data. For the data that contains really sensitive information, for example, the credit card numbers, or maybe for your for example, for the Singapore ID numbers, right? So this thing we can prevent that one from this DOB policy. And the last one is govern the data. This one is pretty much like support for the audit process. When your audit team, they want to go to the document to see and to know the process. Or maybe like there's an employee, they try to delete all the confidential data. So we can retain that data so that we can use it normally without any interruption. So these are 4 stages that we have to follow. And I think I really recommend you guys to go to the beginning. So we have to know the data first, then we can protect the data, prevent the data loss, and finally govern the data. And in here, so we're talking only for the technologies, right? Technologies are really good nowadays, not only Microsoft. So every technologies now, they can support for your company scenario, right? But we have to think about it's not only about technology. So technology is like the way that they can support you, right? One day, so when the employees they try to leak the data out, so we have the way to work with that one. So we don't just depends on the technologies because sometimes it has the interruption, it has something that it cannot cover the whole scenario. So in here, so you can see, so we of course we do have the technology, we have the label architecture, we have the data loss prevention, we have the record management and access management. But in here, so the more important thing that not only for the data but for the regulation as well. That's the advisory law and legal. So we don't just enable all the policies from the technology. We must have the way to meet the regulatory requirements in here, so to comply with the regulatory. So we not only just like create a bunch of policy and we just enable it for the end users. So we have to make sure that if your requirements can meet with your compliance. And then we have the label taxonomy and also the retention requirement as well. And also for the process, right? So this is the incident response. So in case that there's an incident happens, so you have to find out that the actor, the action, and also the timeline of that incident happens. So that's why we don't just talk about the technology here. We also have the people. We have to train the employee so that they can understand and they can praise their awareness about the information protection inside the company. And the last one is the process. So we also build the process whenever the incident is coming. So we will have the way to recover that one and remediate that one. So over the years, mostly our customer, they will focus on only the external threat. External threats means that they try to protect and defend this system from being attacked by the hackers, right? But the thing is that you wonder about the internal risk in here because the external threat, the purpose is that the hacker they try to go to your system and then they will get the privileged access. For example, get the employee account or get the admin account, right? But for the internal risk, because your employee they already have full control of permissions. It's different from the hacker. The hacker they have to try to go to their system and they can get web the accounts. But in here, so the employee they already have the account to control the data, so they can do anything that they want. For example, they can go to the Sapon site and they can download all the materials. And when they leave the company, so they can send out this picture. documents. So that's why the internal risk is really important, and it's really hard to control because we cannot just block all the actions from the employees. So it will reduce the productivity of the employees. So that's why we do have the solution to not only protect but also give the employee the flexibility when they're working or when they are collaborating. In here, so we have the information protection in here to protect the data loss prevention to prevent the data loss, and the last one is the risk management to use the artificial intelligence to monitor and to analyze the user behavior, which they will have some suspicious activities in our organization, and we can know that one. Okay, so go to the first one. The first solution is the Microsoft Purview information protection. So like I mentioned before, so really much that we must have the way to know our data. And in here, the Microsoft Purview Information Protection will give you a data classification service, which means that you can use this material in here to classify your data. For example, for this one, sensitive information type. So I will call it SAT for short. In here, so you can define the regular expression, the keyword list, keyword dictionary to determine that if that document or this email is sensitive or not. For example, we have a case that we can create a credit card numbers as the in here. And then if in the email that the people they try to send the credit card numbers to the outsider, so this one this anxiety in here, so they can recognize this one and they can block the action. So we can do not only for the cost, so we also do the, for example, phone number, for the ID numbers, or even for some of the projects that you have some keywords that determine as a confidential data. For example, the project name, and also project ID, for example, in the Excel files or something like that. So we can do that one as well. And even more, we have the trainable classifier. So that is the Microsoft redefined classifier for the company. So for example, so if you are a developer, right, you try to send a source code to the outsider. So just one click, you just click on the source code. So it's already defined by Microsoft. You just enable this one. And then whenever the developer they try to send the source code to the outsider, so the data classification service, they can know that one and they can block the action. So that's really good that we can practice from the beginning for this data classification first, and then go to the second one to protect the data. And in here, so you can see, so we will have the sensitivity labels, which mean that this is the way that we can categorize the labels. Like for example, this one is public, right? So we can click on this one and this document is attached with this label. And for example, so if your document is confidential, so you can attach this label as well. And now, moreover, so it can be extendable for the SDK. For example, your application, they want to use the sensitive label, right? So we can still do that one. We have the Microsoft Information Protection as SDK for you guys to put on that one. And this protection is not only encryption. So the advantage of Microsoft solution is that it has the rights management service, which means that we not only encrypt data and we block the access from the unauthorized users. We also have the right management, which means that we can rent the access, but instead of just have a full control, so they only have the viewer permission. So they only access the document or access the document and they just view the document. So they cannot edit, they cannot copy, or even they cannot print the document. So it's really powerful because we have to think about if we just encrypt the data, we don't give the customer or the employee the flexibility of working. So that's why this one. So the encryption is the way that we will enable the the permission, the access restriction. So that, for example, for the manager, for the BOD, for the directors, So if they come with the confidential data, so they can have full control. They can do anything with the data. But for only normal users, so they only have the way to view the document, nothing else. And for the location, because this solution is from Microsoft, so it is native for the whole Office 365 solution, which means that your end users, they don't need to install any agent or install anything. All they need to do is just wait to the IT admin to enable this feature. And then in the Office 365 application, it would display the sensitivity labels for you guys to work. So it's really good that we don't actually like touch with the end users. So all we need to do is just control our policy, control our labels in the admin portal. Okay, so in case that you have the on-premises, so we also have a scanner for you guys to deploy it and to scan all of the materials, all the documents in the file server or in the SharePoint server as well. And also in the futures, so in case that, so these are the advanced command solution. So in case that you have the audit team and you want to search for the content or something else, so we have the e-discovery in here. And the instant risk management, which I mentioned before, so it will use the AI to analyze the user behavior to determine that if that user has a suspicious activity or not. Okay, so not only for the document and emails, so we also have the container labels. So it will apply for the SharePoint, Team, and Microsoft 365 groups. So in here, so we can have the asset control, privacy setting, and also the conditional access. So for the asset control, so we can control the access from that containers. For example, for the SharePoint size, so we only allow the internal to come with the SharePoint size. So we don't allow any document to be sent out to the outsiders. And also for the privacy settings, so we can reduce the sharing that we just only allow the employee to share the information for maybe for some of the people or for the whole company, but not for everyone in here. So we will have two category of labels. Content labels, we do have Office application and Power BI report and Azure ID as well. And the second one is the container labels. And in here, so we will see some example of that labels. And this one is Excel, this one is Outlook, and this one is mobile, which means that where the information protection supports for like many common platforms. So as soon as your phone or your laptop can install the Office 365, so you have the way to deal with the sensitivity in here. Even your mobile phone in here. So this is the Android phone. So it can also choose the sensitivity label in here, right? So this is the Excel. So it's really straightforward, and for the Outlook as well. So you can see here. So it has this drop down list in here. So it shows that. So I will go to the next slide so that you can clearly understand. So in here, so whenever you go to the Office 365 applications, so you can see the button here. So this button, like I mentioned before, you don't need to install anything. All you need to do is just like from the IT admin, enable the policy, and then from the end user, so they can see that button and they can click on this one. And then you can see that there's a list of your labels. For example, if you choose this label as public, so you can choose this one, just one click. And then the policy will apply to this document. And moreover, so it's just not only the permission, the policy, the encryption from our company. So we can allow the users to have their way to define the permission by themselves. So we call it user defined permission. So in here, so if you click on a label that allows the employee to define the permission, so it will show a box here. And then you will, I'm sorry. So when you have that box here, so you will type the name or the email address that you want them to have the read permission or the change permission in here. So for example, so if I put my name in here for the read permission, so I only have the view permission when I open this document. And then when I like tie in another name to the chain, so they will have the edit, they can copy, they can save, but they can bring the content. Of course, we can customize the print option in here as well. So don't worry about that. But the thing is that we have to think about the case that in the future, so we'll work with the partners or the customer, but we cannot allow this one as a public document because it's really confidential, right? So we can put the name of the partner or the customer in this one, and this partner, they can open, they can access to the document. But if the partner they send to the another person, so that person they cannot open this one because it's not listed in this user defined permission in here. Okay, so there's a scenario that the employee, because they know that if they choose the confidential label, so they cannot like give the access to the external users. So they will choose a public document, which means they will direct the label from the confidential to the public label. And then they will try to send that to the outsider because the public label, they don't have the encryption, they don't have the access restriction. So which means that the external users, they can access to that one. Information protection, they have this one, business justification. When you try to direct the label, for example, from the confidential to the public, so it will send you, it will show you the box here, which means that you have to give them the business justification for your case. So for example, you will say that your reverse label was not correct, and or maybe like I have a case I have to send out to the outsider for something like that, and then the justification here will go to the IT admin so that they can know that action happening in the company. And then, for example, in the future, so if we have the incident happening, so we can go to this audit log and we can search for the actor who do that one so that we can know that. So if an incident happen, so it will cover this scenario as well. Okay, so in here, so we also have the feature that's really powerful, co-authoring. When you think about the encryption, right? So we try to encrypt the document. So the thing is that if you want to have a collaboration between two or more people, and you cannot do that one because due to the lack of the encryption algorithm. So because we have to encrypt the data, that's why we cannot enable two people. They go to one document and they can edit at the same time. So that's why Microsoft see that problems and they enable the co-authoring, which means you can still collaborate with another person when this document is already encrypted. You can see here, so this is a Microsoft Word and this is a Microsoft Teams. So you guys can still collaborate, you can still edit the document at the same time, but we can still keep the data in the protection of the encryption. And the last one is protect the PDF file. So when you work in the Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, right? You maybe there's some cases that you want to export your data into the PDF file. So if you choose the label that has the encryption, the access restriction from the label policy. So when we export to the PDF file, so the PDF files to can have that encryption into that file. So which means that if you send a PDF to someone else, so they must have the authorization to open and to access to the PDF. So that's why we can have the full protection of the data lifecycle. Okay, so these are all the information protection. So if you have any questions, so feel free to put in the chat box. At the end, so we also have the Q&A session, so you can praise your voice here so that we can support you. Okay, so go to the second solution is the data loss prevention here. So data loss prevention. So I think in this webinar, so I think most of your most of you have heard about that one. So in here, data loss prevention, the purpose is to prevent the data from being leaked to the outsider. So in here we have the Microsoft 365, of course, because it's a Microsoft solution, right? So you have the cloud DOB. I think that's only support for Microsoft. So I think a three rare vendors they can support for example SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and also Office application. And also we have the endpoint here. So for some in case that you want to support the endpoint DB, you want to block the action from sending the confidential data to the application to the removable media for many domain servers. So you can use the endpoint DB as well. We do support the Windows, Mac OS, and also for the Edge browser and Chrome browser. Even you have the non-Microsoft Cloud application, you can enable the Defender for Cloud apps to support for the DOB. For example, you have Google, you have Dropbox, Salesforce, or Box. You can enable this one as well. And finally, for the on-premises, we can also do the DOB for the file server and SharePoint server. So really much that nearly all of the locations, so we do have support the data loss prevention. And in here, so you can see, so it's an example of the Exchange Online. The Exchange Online here, so because right, Exchange Online, I think it's really common. It's the way that we can communicate not only for our internal employee, but we have to communicate with with the customer, with the external users, with the partners, and so on. So there's many mistakes that we intentionally or accidentally put a credential or the confidential data into that email. For example, you put a credit card numbers in this message, or you attach the documents that contains sensitive information or sensitive label. So in here, so the Outlook or the Exchange Online TOB, they can detect that one, and they will show that. Okay, so that's the first scenario. It will have a symbol warning so that the user can understand and can know that, okay, so I violate the company policy. But the thing is that because it's really like a symbol warning, so you can click on send anyway, and you can send this material, right? Because you can notice here, it is a gmail.com, which means that it's not our employee. This is maybe a personal email or the external email. So that's why the Exchange Online DOB will activate and it will send this symbol warning in here. The second scenario, you can configure your DOB to have a symbol block, which means that it just only have the notification here and you can click on OK and you have to remove the gmail.com so that you can send that email. So if you don't remove that one, so you don't have any way to do that one. The third one is the acknowledgement, which means that, okay, so we still allow you to send this email to this gmail.com, but you have to acknowledge that you confirm that in the future, if there's an incident relating to your email, you are the one to be responsible of your action. So when the employee, they think about that one and they acknowledge that and they can confirm and send. The fourth one is the Exchange Online. So which means that you can give the justification just like I mentioned before with the label direct. Yeah, you can put the justification here and the IT team, they can know your action, know your business justification. And the last one is just a combination between the acknowledgement and also the justification. So you can combine both of them so that you can have a really much same reasons for this case. Okay, so for the last one, for the OneDrive and SharePoint DLBs, so it's also a Microsoft solution, and it can automatically scan your document and it can apply DLB policy in your document. So in this scenario, I have the public document, I also attach the public label as well. But why do my SharePoint display this icon and show that it contains sensitive information? Because in this public document, I put the credit card numbers in here. So that's why it will scan for my content and will apply the DLB policy in it. So I cannot share this public documents to the outsider because it has credit card numbers contain sensitive information. So it's really good that we have a straightforward DOB data prevention so that the employee they don't have the way to send that data to the outsider. So these are all the technologies. So like I emphasized for you guys before, technology is just like a way to support you. We have to think about how we can classify the data and we have to know the data before we can protect and prevent the loss. So in here is the Microsoft Information Protection Q-Chain. So you have noticed that not only for the information protection and the data prevention, we have the asset management as well because your identity is really important. If you give your account credential to the hackers, so they will have full capability, and then your information protection, your data prevention is useless because the hacker they have full control now. So that's why we have to keep in control that the access management first. For example, so if the users so they use the personal laptop, so they cannot go to the SharePoint site and download the material. They have to use the correct device to download the document. So we will prevent the loss of data when the user they try to use the personal laptop and try to back up the data to their personal storage. And for example, so we also allow the asset only from compliant device. So we will plug on the action Outlook, Word, Excel to the non-compliant device. So these are the assessment management. And for the information protection and data prevention, so I told to you guys before that we have to do with the data protection, right? And then we will block the asset to the confidential data. And the last one, the prevent the data loss. So how to get started with this one? So the first one you have to consider is define the label schema. You have to establish the schema that when the users they see the document or they see the email, they can understand that which label they can apply. So that's the most important thing. And if they can do that, so it's really good that our company already followed the data protection journey. The second one, publish the label to the end user. So this one, you will allow the users to see the label and to apply a label to their documents and their email. The third one is label recommendation. So these are the training. So we have to train the users to raise the awareness and for them to understand that if they can use that document, so what they can do or what they have to do to protect the data. And the last one, the automatic labeling. So after 1 or 2 months, after we enable the manual labeling for the end users, so they can use the label effectively. They know the way to protect the company's data. So we can enable the automatic labeling to allow the system to control and to apply the label automatically. Okay, so these are all the best practices that Noventic can offer for you guys. And in here, so we also do have some offerings for the customer who interest in the information protection in here. So we do have the Noventic information protection. So we will try to come to you guys. And it's not just about the technology, it's about the process, it is about the classification as well. And in here, so we will do for each department. And the thing is that because each department they do have their own data schema. For example, you cannot compare the data between the HR department to the finance department because it's totally different in terms of um, the category, the process, and also the people as well. So that's why we will work for each department so that we can understand the landscape and also the culture of that department for the information classification. And then when we classify successfully, we have the label schema, we have the location to understand the landscape. We will go to the technologies, which mean the information protection and governance. And then when we work for one department successfully, we will go to the production phase, which means that we will go by each department. And we also do the same process. And then after the end of the department, so we will have the whole solution for the information protection in your company. So that's really good that we can consider for each department to successfully win the project. And not only that one, so as I mentioned before that because we have to deal with the access management as well. We have to control the identity, the device from user. So we do have the Noventic Managed Protection for Microsoft 365. So we will have two bundles. The first one is the standard and the advanced. So in here, so you can see here, so these are all the access management from the Microsoft 365. So you will narrow down the access from the users. You will classify and verify the user sign as well. You have to understand that the user is from themselves, not the compromise from the attackers. So that's why we do have this one. So we can enable the policies and we can protect the users for your users. And then we also have a discount for 3 months as well. And if you have any interest for this Noventic management protection, and also for the Noventic information protection as well, like I mentioned before. So we do have a form so that you can register your contact, and then our engineer or our consultant can come to you guys and we can talk to for the further discussion. Okay, so that's pretty much my presentation today. So thank you everyone to join the webinar up to now. So this is a Q&A session. So up to you guys, up to you, Rachel.
Thank you. I think before we proceed to the Q&A, I believe everyone has some questions to ask you. But I would like to share with you about the e-commerce that Noventic is offering to our customers, where this is a marketplace on the right panel of the screen, the browser, where we are having this platform for our customers that is on CSP, Microsoft CSP plan. And basically this portal provides you, the customers, 24 hours every day of kind of features for you to subscribe, manage, or even activate cloud-based services. And once you sign up for an account, you are able to offer some of the trial plans that we have on a monthly basis. It could be to try that particular solution. And you are able to view your reports, whether it's usage reports, expense reports, provide you analytics. So it provides you a reminder as well, notification when it comes to the due. And it's very fast and simplified process for you to onboard this portal. So this is how it looks like. You can go to sg.noventic.market/catalog, and you can view, since we are talking about security, so you can scroll down, find out what kind of solutions that we offer, like Defender, security compliance, Intune, etc. So for example, let me click on one of the solutions where Microsoft Defender is. So we offer like discounts and even trial, for example. Yeah, so you can select, but of course before that you may have to sign up an account. Let's maybe move on to business premium, because just you mentioned about the Noventic managed protection that is part of business premium offering. So with that, you can also enjoy like a trial here. Now, once you are very comfortable with it, you can proceed with a subscription base. Okay, feel free, log into our portal and do explore. Out of we do have Azure, Microsoft Teams, Windows as well. You may explore it by yourself. Then, yes, as promised, let's move on to the Q&A session. And you may scan the QR code that's appear here. Then we have this portal where you can raise your questions to our speakers, Doi, and ask any questions relating It could be security, it could be non-Microsoft solution security as well, how to be compatible with your the new solutions from Microsoft. And yeah, it could be even other things about the subscription service that I've just shared. So feel free, scan the QR code, ask question, and we will be answering your question accordingly. Thank you. While waiting for a question coming in, maybe I want to address one question. So based on your experience, what is the fundamental, if a company, I'm from SME, which I may only afford Microsoft 365 licenses, which plan of Microsoft 365 licenses that provide a very fundamental security for my organization data? What is your recommendation?
Okay, so we're talking about the Microsoft license, right? So because the information protection is pretty much like the license from the Office 365. So maybe you can offer the Office 365 E3. So it has a bundle of the Microsoft information, this label that I mentioned to you guys before. So you can use this one so that we can understand and we can protect the data. And it also includes the data loss prevention feature as well. But in case that we are from the SMB company, so I believe that we can go with the Business 365 Business Premium, and it has the full bundle of the information protection. So that's really benefit for the company because we only purchase for the Business Premium. So we don't need to go to the Office 365 E3. The Business Premium also include that one as well. So yeah, so if you can check for your bill of material, your license currently, and then you are now can be eligible for your license.
Thanks. And with
Yes.
that, we have our Microsoft 365 Business Premium that is paired with a plan that is, we call it as the Nomadic Managed Protection. So now we have having an offerings where with a minimum of 9 months of agreement with Novantics, you are able to enjoy additional 3 months with us. Yeah, so without further ado, let's proceed to the first question number 1. So what types of sensitive data can Purview Information Protection and DLP classify and protect?
Yes. So pretty much like the most important thing is that because it is a Microsoft solution, so of course it has the support for all the Office application, include the like some extension like Docs, SLS, and also the PowerPoint as well. And also, if you want to extend more for the non-Office application, so we do have support the PDF as well. Also, the Microsoft has the integration with the Adobe Acrobat so that you can, if you have the enterprise license of the Adobe, so you can enable it automatically and natively in your Adobe Acrobat. And moreover, if you have, for example, if you want to protect the image as well, so we do have that one. But be careful on that because if you use the non-Office files, you have to install an agent. Yeah. So if you use the Office application, so you don't need to do that one. But if not, you have to install an agent to the end user's laptop. Yeah.
It's very clear. Let's move on to the next question. So question number 2, does Purview Information Protection and DLP support data classification for third-party application and services?
Yes. So Purview Information Protection does have support the data classification for third-party applications. So if you have, for example, a website or the application, so you can install and you can follow the guidance from the Microsoft Information Protection SDK, and you can install that package, and then your application is free to go with this one. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I know that we are slightly overrun. I think we have a last question to address. What types of sensitive data can Purview Information Protection and DLP classify and protect?
Yes. So overall, of the data from the Office application, like I mentioned before. And the second one, if you have the PDF, and I suggest you guys to go with the Adobe Acrobat. But if there's many customer that they don't have the Adobe Acrobat, they have, for example, Faucet or just some simple PDF reader. So we can install an agent so that we can go to that agent and we can classify and protect this PDF as well for the image as well. Yeah.
Oh, images, it works as well. Great. I mean, you hear that. Believe it's the AI's the technologies that are able to do that.
Yes.
So great. Thanks. It was a fruitful session with Dwayne, and of course with everyone's here. Thanks for your time, for joining us. And we would like to hear from you. So do scan this QR code and provide your feedback. It could be you would like to connect with us, that you want to further explore Microsoft solutions through Novantic as well as NetOne Asia. And if you want to find out what kind of non-security solutions that we're able to assist you, we are able to provide that as well. And if you want to get this webinar recording as well as the presentation slide, feel free, scan this QR code and drop us a comment and message. We will be in touch with you soon. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time. And yeah, so if you want to find out more, stay tuned to our LinkedIn, Novantic Singapore, that we will be posting our future events information. Thank you.